You're still watching this morning's live broadcast on News Central Television. This is News Now with me, Joe Hanson. Let's take a look at the top stories for this hour. Government promises to rebuild Majia town following Jigawa tanker blasts as Nigeria's Safety Investigation Bureau begins probe. National Security Advisor Malam Nuhu Ribadu says many arms with terrorists are government-owned. Kenya Senate votes to oust Deputy President. That's a story from Kenya. We have details of all these stories and more after the break. Stay with us. News Central now. This hour begins in north central Nigeria, where following the tragic patrol tank explosion in Majia, Jigawa State, which claimed over 150 lives, the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau, NSIB, has dispatched a team of experts to investigate the incident. In a statement, NSIB's Director of Public Affairs, Mrs. Bimbo Oladiji, said the team will assess the causes of the crash and explosion with the goal of preventing future occurrences. The explosion occurred after a tanker en route from Kano to Yobe crashed and spilled its fuel, which ignited when residents attempted to scoop it. NSIB urged the public to avoid gathering at accident scenes, citing the dangers of such actions. Further updates will follow as investigations proceed. Meanwhile, the federal government has pledged support to Jigawa State in rebuilding Majia town following a devastating fuel tank explosion that claimed 153 lives. Secretary to the government of the Federation, George Akume, made this promise on Thursday during a condolence visit. Akume conveyed President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's deep sorrow over the incident, noting that the president has ordered a thorough investigation and directed federal agencies to assist in rebuilding and supporting affected families. Kwara State Governor Abdul Rahman Abdul Razak, part of delegation, urged citizens to avoid scooping fuel during accidents. Meanwhile, Federal Road Safety Corps Marshal Shehu Mohammed confirmed an ongoing investigation and promised enhanced measures to prevent future road accidents. Let's still tell you that the death toll from the explosion in Majia has risen to 153, with 100 people hospitalized. Police spokesperson DSP Lawan Shisu confirmed the updated figures. Victims have been buried in a mass grave, while the injured are receiving treatment at various hospitals, including Aminu, Kano, and Gumel. Governor Umar Namadi expressed deep sorrow over the tragedy, visiting the site and attending the mass burial. He assured the public that the state will cover medical expenses for the injured and provide support to affected families. Namadi urged the public to prioritize safety and avoid accident sites during emergencies to prevent further casualties. As part of activities to mark this year's International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, stakeholders and experts gathered at the University of Maiduguri to emphasize the critical need for increased awareness and education on disaster response in Nigeria. News Central's Umaru Kirawa completes the report.
Disasters like flood and sometimes conflict strike like the proverbial thief in the night. Communities most often are not aware of what to do in response. Experts and stakeholders here stress the need for comprehensive education programs to prepare communities.
I would like to call on the government to include children in activities like public awareness activities in order to protect themselves from disaster, yes, and also disaster risk management.
Most importantly, we must prepare for disasters. Emergencies, disasters are surely coming, especially in this age and era of climate change. So the occurrence, their frequencies are becoming more and more worrisome. And so what we need to do is, like we have always been saying, we need to prepare for them.
From our own side, Save the Children, we have a web-based early warning system. So what the web-based early warning system does is that it gives us heads up should there be the likelihood of a massive disaster, even a disaster of small scale. So we feed the early warning system with information like it serves one as a database of incidents.
The forum brought together officials, non-governmental organizations, and academics who shared insights on enhancing local response mechanisms.
As part of our early warning projection collaboration, we received weather equipment worth 14 million naira donated to our Center for Disaster Risk Management and Development Studies by Save the Children International.
If we are more disaster resilient, it's like we're wearing bulletproof, against disaster. So, and it starts with knowledge. When you are aware of the risk that you are facing, then you will be able to make adequate actions or strategies to protect yourself.
The gathering called for government action and community engagement to implement sustainable disaster preparedness initiatives. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Let's now tell you that a CNG-powered vehicle explosion at a filling station in Aduawa, Benin, left 3 people severely injured. According to multiple videos posted online, the blast, which occurred on Wednesday, was linked to an improperly fabricated cylinder by a welder. Among the injured are a motorist with eye injuries, a woman with severe stomach injuries, and another person who had a foot amputated. All victims are receiving treatment at the University of Benin Teaching Hospital. Authorities confirmed the welder turned himself in to the police. The presidential CNG initiative expressed sympathy, emphasizing the need for strict safety compliance and announcing investigations by the police and regulatory bodies. The incident highlights the importance of safe CNG handling and the upcoming Nigeria gas vehicle monitoring system. To discuss this, I'm being joined by Temitokwe Kolade, Senior Manager and Lead ESG and Climate Change Services at Anderson. Temitokwe, thank you for being here this morning. A CNG-powered vehicle exploding, leaving 3 people severely injured, just as you've seen there in the footage. How do you react to this unfortunate incident, especially now that the federal government has been drumming support for CNG and helping Nigerians to cope, especially with the current transportation fares and a hike in prices?
Thanks for having me. And it's an unfortunate incident indeed. How do I react to it? I think with everything in life, there is always a risk attached to it, whatever it is, especially when it's coming at the very early stages. With this, we've also identified what the issue is. It then means that government needs to do more in terms of the monitoring. Good enough, they're about to launch the vehicle monitoring system, and I think that would help to ensure that POCs will not get into the system to start doing things that look like the original. There is the need for certification, there is a need for monitoring, there is a need for ensuring that all the safety concerns are addressed and addressed properly. The reality is that the world over, you would find that there are less of incidents around CNG vehicles compared to the regular PMS or diesel vehicles. And interestingly, or unfortunately, you just also talked to us about the news of about 153 dead for a tanker explosion in Jigawa. We've not found such, even though CNG is typically transported, or gas altogether, LPG is transported from one point to the other. We also use gas in our kitchens, and there are very few incidents of explosions and all of those. So it's really about the handling, if I must say.
All right. We've seen that in the story, the explosion was traced to a cylinder that was fabricated by a welder without proper approval. What do you think the federal government will have to grapple with, especially now that the introduction to CNG is not widely known to many Nigerians? What do you think the challenges would definitely be?
Yeah, the challenges would be that of adoption. Government has to do more awareness sessions with people, especially the public vehicle owners, the transporters, the logistics company. they need to give them that comfort that indeed try to do things on their own. I think with proper awareness sessions, with proper responsibilities being taken by government itself in terms of how to ensure quality standards, quality control, and monitoring, I think that we'll be able to deal with the issues and would get people to see that the advantages indeed outweigh the demerits that people may be looking at altogether. Yes, there could be issues here and there, but it comes with every other thing. There are preventive measures to take, and awareness is very key. Training people who would be first responders to issues like that which happened in Benin yesterday is also very important.
All right, some experts have called for Nigeria and the federal government to look into electric vehicles rather than the CNGs, stating that the base stations or recharge stations could equally be powered by solar or other means as a means to an end for Nigerians to cope with the transportation situation. What's your thought on that? Would you rather suggest that the government looks inward and not just focused on CNG, but could also focus on electric vehicles?
Yes, indeed, and then the authority at the PCNGI will let you know that one of their mandates, it's not just about the CNG, but also the electric vehicles. But that's important, right? But it's also equally important for us to think about how sustainable that is in our current situation as a country. We have very much abundance of gas resources in itself. That's on the one side. On the other side, we're struggling with powering our systems with the required electricity across board. And that's a very big issue that we are dealing with in Nigeria at the moment. Again, because of how poverty ridden in very many parts of this country is at the moment, it becomes more capital intensive to go the EV way at the moment. But again, it's an option, but it appears to be an high-end option at the moment. So it's basically trying to strike a balance that I believe would matter here.
All right. Temi Tokwe Kolado is a senior manager and lead ESG and climate change services at Anderson. Thank you for joining us this morning. We'll go for a break now. When we return, former President Goodluck Jonathan blames judiciary for various internal crises rocking political parties in the country. We'll bring you this story and more. You're watching news now here on News Central. On to security matters. National Security Advisor Malam Nuhu Ribadu has revealed that many illicit weapons circulating in Nigeria originally belonged to the federal government. Speaking during an arms destruction exercise by the National Center for the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons at Muhammadu Buhari Cantonment, Abuja, Ribadu blamed corrupt security personnel for allowing these weapons to fall into the hands of terrorists, bandits, and other non-state actors. He condemned the actions of those within the security agencies who facilitate the distribution of arms and assured them that the government is committed to enhancing the country's security and preventing further illegal weapon proliferation. Moving on now, the Federation Accounts Allocation Committee, FAC, has distributed 1.298 trillion naira to the federal, state, and local governments as revenue for September 2024. This was announced following the FAAC meeting held in Abuja on Thursday. The breakdown of distributable revenue includes 124.7 billion naira in statutory revenue, 543.5 billion naira from value-added tax, 18.4 billion naira from the electronic money transfer levy, 462.2 billion naira from exchange difference revenue, and an additional 150 billion naira in augmentation. A communique from the FAC meeting revealed that the total revenue for September 2024 was 2.258 trillion naira. Of this, 80.9 billion naira was deducted for the cost of collection, while 878.9 billion naira went to transfers, interventions, and refunds. In September, gross statutory revenue stood at 1.043 trillion naira, a decline of 177.4 billion naira from August's 1.221 trillion naira. However, VAT revenue increased to 583.7 billion naira, a rise of 10.3 billion naira from August's figure of 573.3 billion naira. Nigeria's former president, Goodluck Jonathan, has accused the nation's Supreme Court of instigating crisis in the nation's political parties following various court judgments expected to resolve their internal party differences. Speaking at the 67th birthday celebration of senior advocate of Nigeria, Mike Ozokame, Jonathan expressed concerns about the ruling, saying that this contradicts the natural order of governance.
We're so grateful to our. When I look at how nation works, I have never seen a system where a sub-unit can discipline the top. For PDP exactly, of course Baba knows, in the constitution of PDP, if you're a national officer, even your state cannot discipline you. Not to talk about a ward officers that are not even members of NEC, the National Executive Council. And we are saying that a ward chairman of a party can suspend and expel a national chairman of a political party. I'm pleading with the Supreme Court to declare that their judgment. Because that judgment has turned the cone upside down. And the political process, the democracy is wobbling.
Nigerian senators have unanimously passed a vote of confidence in the leadership of Senate President Godswill Akpabio in a show of solidarity. This comes in response to social media reports on Wednesday suggesting that some Northern senators were plotting to impeach the Senate president. During Thursday's plenary, former Senate leader Yahaya Abdullahi raised a point of order, addressing the allegations and expressing his concerns about the publication that claimed Northern senators were behind the impeachment move. Abdullahi, who represents Kebbi North, described the accusation as a violation of his constitutional rights as a citizen and lawmaker. In response, Senate President Akpabio expressed his gratitude for the unwavering support from his colleagues and reassured them of his commitment to providing strong and effective leadership.
And I can assure you that there has been no attempt that I know of by any caucus or any group among the other senators to bring this code or make any attempt to challenge the legitimacy of your election or to undermine the good work that we have been doing in this Senate. I think it is important for some of us that are probably being seen as the frontliners to say, without consulting my friends, my colleagues from the North, that I move that will enforce a vote of confidence in both you, the Senate President, and the Deputy Senate President, and the entire leadership of the National Assembly in this regard.
Senator Ningi has moved a motion that a vote of confidence should be passed on the leadership of the Senate, and seconded by the Senior Senator Abbas. This is further amended by the minority leader of the Senate, that it should be the entirety of the Senate and not just Northern senators. And this has also been further seconded by the Senior Senator Sani Musa. In a very humble way, I feel humbled, but I'm obligated to put the question. Those who support that this vote of confidence on the Senate leadership be carried, say aye. Those against, say nay. They are not here. The ayes have it.
Well, let's now head to River State, where Governor Siminalayi Fubara emphasized that Nigeria needs strong institutions, not powerful individuals, to foster democracy and good governance. Speaking at the rededication service for the 2004 2024-2025 new legal year at St. Paul's Cathedral, Port Harcourt. Governor Fumara urged judges to remain courageous in upholding truth despite threats and frivolous petitions. He stressed that the country's progress depends on institutional strength, not individual control. The governor also criticized judges who act unprofessionally, reminding them of their vital role in society and the importance of maintaining judicial integrity.
Let me say it here so you understand. Judges, you are the God that we are seeing. Your position is to stand and defend us. Your position is to look at whoever and tell the person the truth. Because if you don't do it here, you have a big question to answer. The preacher said it. Every evil done in the course of administrative justice, you will pay for it dearly. Look at what today, the up and downs in this state. When everybody knows that whatever we're getting from that end, I don't want to call their name, are but judgments. Everybody knows. But I'm not bothered about it. Like the word said here, it will come to an end.
Let's turn our attention now to election matters. Nigeria's electoral body, the Independent National Electoral Commission, has fixed Saturday, the 8th of November 2025, for the off-cycle Anambra State governorship poll. The electoral body, while meeting with heads of political parties as part of its fourth regular consultative meeting, also informed those present of the preparation for the upcoming Edo State governorship election slated for November 16 this year. Amadine Uyi has more in this report.
It was the fourth regular consultative meeting with political parties and Nigeria's electoral body. The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission gave representatives of political parties present an update on preparations for the upcoming Edo State governorship poll.
With just 29 days or 4 weeks to the Edo State governorship election, today's meeting is no exception. Only 2 days ago, the Commission presented the register of voters to political parties in our state office in Akure. With this development, we have successfully accomplished 10 out of 13 activities listed in the timetable and schedule of activities for the election. The 3 remaining activities are the publication of the notice of poll, the last day of campaign, and election day.
He also informed them that the electoral body has set a date for the Anambra State governorship election, which has been slated for November 8th next year.
The Commission has approved that the 2025 Anambra State governorship election will hold on Saturday, 8th November 2025. In compliance with the mandatory requirement of 360 days, the formal notice for the election will be published on the 13th of November 2024. Party primaries will be held from 20th March 2025 to 10th April 2025. The candidate nomination portal will open at 9 a.m. on 18th April 2025 and close at 6 p.m. on 12th May 2025.
The chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council urged the electoral body to play its role as an electoral umpire without bias, improving the process.
Nigerians expect INEC to improve on the Saturday, 16 November 2024 Edo State governorship election. The Council urges stakeholders in the electoral process to also join in voters' education, sensitization, and mobilization to ensure free, fair, credible, transparent, inclusive, and peaceful election that will meet international standards. IPAC will lead from the front in voters' mobilization as a major stakeholder and urge political parties and their candidates to imbibe issue-based campaign and eschew politics of bitterness.
Nigeria's electoral body urged political parties to help mobilize registered voters to come out en masse and collect their permanent voters' card ahead of the upcoming polls. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
The Nigeria in Diaspora Commission says that its upcoming Diaspora Investment Summit will hold from November the 5th to 7th. The Chief Executive Officer of the Commission made this known to newsmen in Abuja, saying that the summit will present a platform for Nigerians living outside the country to contribute to national development. She says that the summit will draw from the successes of the previous.
We are pleased to announce this year's Diaspora Investment Summit, which will take place from 5th to 7th of November at the Presidential Villa here in Abuja. Now, our theme this year is adapting stability through diaspora investment, navigating the path to prosperity. And I believe this year's event promises to be the most impactful yet, because of the theme and what we have achieved in the last few years. We started this in 2018, and it has consistently provided a vibrant and impactful platform for the Nigerian diaspora to play a role in the country's economic development, and a critical role for that. Through this initiative, members of the diaspora have been empowered to channel their resources, expertise, and networks into fostering economic growth and creating opportunities for Nigerians back at home.
As Nigeria joined the rest of the world to mark the World Food Day, some smallholder women farmers have called on the federal government to tackle the issue of insecurity headlong, saying many of them continue to face attacks. Some of them spoke to News Central Television in Abuja, saying that insecurity continues to take its toll on farmers, as many of them can no longer access their farms alone, except they are in company of other farmers. They say headsmen attack their farms and pillage their farm produce, leaving them with nothing to reap from their labor.
As more other farmers, we women, we know that today is World Food Day, but my sadness about this food day is that we are talking of food, we are not in position of food, because we that we produce, we are not in position of harvesting. We produce and another people now go and harvest. Then how are we going to be in position of food? I'll make farm. I cannot harvest because the Fulani estimate, and you cannot talk. I cannot talk. When you say you talk, they'll want to kill you.
For me as a farmer, and for me as a Nigerian, it is a shame. Nothing to celebrate. It's something we should all hide our face, because thousands of Nigeria in the rural area, in my community where I'm coming from, go to bed hungry. They go to bed without food. And even to my dear president, I said, in short, I'm not impressed because your word did not tally with your action.
Some members of the biking community in Nigeria have urged young citizens to shun the use of illicit substances despite its use becoming more popular. This was as the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, in collaboration with the Jigawa riders in Jigawa State, kicked off a nationwide anti-drug campaign in Yola, the state capital. Our correspondent Edo Joseph compiled this report.
The burden of drug abuse is becoming a public health concern in Nigeria, as available data reveals that the issue is common among undergraduates and secondary school students, youths, sex workers, amongst others. According to the 2018 United Nations Office for Drug Control report on drug use in Nigeria, 1 in 7 persons between the ages of 15 to 64 has used a drug in the past. As a result of this, a group of bike riders working with the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency are currently helping raise awareness of the growing trend of illicit substance abuse.
We want to impact the youth positively. But one of the big hindrances of youth development in Nigeria, in Africa, and all over the world is drug abuse and peddling among youth, which will hinder the growth and development of a better future for Nigeria. And we've seen that it is important that we create this platform and start a nationwide drug campaign across all the states of the Federation.
With young people known to be vulnerable to behaviors such as smoking, alcohol consumption, and illicit substance abuse, which puts their health at risk, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency and the Adamawa State government warned students against these vices and urged them to do all they can to shun the vices.
Let me make it abundantly clear to you. Drug abuse is not a path you want to walk. It's not a path you want to tread. It promises quick relief. But let me take tramadol. Let me take cannabis sativa just for experimentation. It's not a path to tread at all.
The first rule is don't start it. Because once you start, the tendency of getting addiction is high. So please don't even start it.
While the prevalence of drug abuse is not peculiar to Nigeria youths alone, the NDLEA reaffirmed its commitment to protecting young people from these dangers by using campaigns to reverse the trend.
Coming up next here on News Now, last witness appears in trial of alleged killers of soccer star Senzo Meyiwa. We'll bring you this story and more after this break. Welcome back. We now head to East Africa, where Kenya's Senate voted on Thursday to impeach Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua in a historic decision. After 2 days of hearings, the Senate found Gachagua guilty of 5 out of 11 charges, including corruption, money laundering, and undermining the government. This marks the first time a deputy president has been ousted since the 2010 constitution introduced impeachment in Kenya. The National Assembly had already overwhelmingly approved the motion last week. Gachagua, who denied all charges, was unable to testify in his defense after being hospitalized with chest pains. Despite his absence, the Senate proceeded with the vote, sealing his removal from office. In South Africa, the lead investigator in Senzo Meyiwa's murder trial, Brigadier Bongani Gininda, is giving testimony at the Pretoria High Court, refuting claims that have been made by Senzo Meyiwa's brother of 2 dockets in the case. He came back after the state asked him to give clarity on his testimony on the matter again. During his testimony, he told the court that there was only 1 docket into Meyiwa's murder case and that he was not the only one assigned to work on the investigation. He further said the correction docket 365 was opened in revenge because they could not agree on whether Meyiwa's murder was committed by the individuals in the house or by intruders. Gininda also testified that he is convinced that the footballer was killed by intruders and not the people who were with him in the house where he was shot. Brigadier Bongani Gininda is the state's last witness. Well, to discuss this, I'm joined by Elton Hart, attorney with the University of Johannesburg Law Clinic. He joins us from Gauteng, South Africa. Welcome. Now, tell me, what's your take on Brigadier Gininda's testimony so far? Can you possibly explain the observed discrepancies between the lead investigation officer's previous testimony and his current statements?
Now, if I look at what he's testifying now compared to his previous testimony and statements made, I think he is technically busy now with damage control. He's trying to sort of have fix what they have already broken. And my view was always that the case of Senzo Meyiwa was broken from the start. It was broken at the crime scene when there was sort of a tampering at the crime scene that occurred, and they overlooked that. They even left the crime scene unprotected or uncordoned off without actually taking the necessary precautions. So for me, I think the case was already broken there at the beginning. And when he was now questioned about these inaccuracies in collection of evidence, and also the possibility of tampering happening, and that the original crime scene is not there. Now he's coming back after hearing everything that was said, and now I think he's trying to make sure that he's steering the boat in a direction so that they can actually now damage control, and saying that he doesn't know of docket 375's existence. Well, he, in his own testimony, then says there was a disagreement amongst investigators. So how can you come to court and say, I didn't know about it, if you know there was a disagreement? And that led to the second docket. So for me, I think it's more damage control that he's trying to do to make sure he give evidence that he's incriminating the 5 accused before court currently.
I mean, how do discrepancies in testimonies like those displayed by the lead investigation officer affect the credibility of the prosecution's case?
No, indeed, the court will have to make a credibility finding looking at the witness specifically to see if that witness evidence can be accepted as the truth. And remember, in criminal cases, you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt. And here already, him coming and doing what I refer to as damage control shows already there's discrepancies. And if there's discrepancies in the evidence, then obviously the doubt should be given to the people in the accused box that standing trial currently for the murder of the soccer star. So for me, Gininda coming now and trying to do this damage control will speak to his credibility, because all along, if he said he knew about the disagreement, there's a possible other theory, why was it never investigated? Why do you guard against that investigation and that evidence being introduced here? So if there's a possibility and another investigator tells you, listen, my man, you look at the evidence and you see this, but we look at the evidence and we see this. Should we not investigate all possible avenues, because you need to treat all people before the law equal? And here currently you're seeing that they do their utmost best to just say these 5 guys in the dock currently is responsible for the death of Senzo Meyiwa.
Let's look at the lead investigator. I mean, the lead investigator utilized Zungu's testimony, which is reportedly based on what he heard from his father. Now, how does the inclusion of hearsay evidence impact the overall integrity of the trial? And can you also share with us, in your opinion, is there a legal justification for the use of Zungu's hearsay testimony?
No, when we go back to Zungu, and Zungu was used as a surprise witness at some stage, coming back to say that he heard them speaking about certain things and he saw them at certain hostels and he saw. So it was a surprise witness. But for me, Zungu, having sat on that type of information, I think for a better 4, 5, 6 years, and not coming to the fore with it being a police officer, for me, I already question his credibility to say that I will not take him serious, because the moment Senzo Meyiwa was a big guy in South Africa, everybody knew him. So the moment you read in the newspapers that the Orlando Pirates goalkeeper is killed, we all know who's the Orlando Pirates goalkeeper. Why did you not be forthcoming with certain information, connecting the dots and saying, but around this time, I also see suspicious behavior, and come up with it. So for me, I would treat it with a pinch of salt. And even for me, I would not say that he's a credible witness. And on top of that, him making all these allegations as a police officer, saying that I was sitting on this incriminating evidence, he's got a duty to disclose these things. He never disclosed it, of crimes that was committed. Why is he not charged? Because he said he saw one of his nephews shot somebody. Why is he not questioned and even charged? Because as a police officer, you have a duty to report crimes. He didn't do it. Only in when the trial started, we suddenly learned that Zungu has this valuable information. So for me, I would question his credibility from the get-go and not even consider it credible. And then obviously, most of the things that he said was also hearsay. So somebody else must corroborate what he said. And I don't think we have seen a witness corroborating already what he said.
Thank you so much, Elton Hart, for joining us and shedding more light on this story.
Thank you.
Still ahead, French President Emmanuel Macron criticizes comments on Israel. We'll bring you this story after this break. Welcome back. French President Emmanuel Macron has criticized ministers and journalists for their distorted comments on Israel, leading to a heated debate with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Macron emphasized that Israel's existence is owed to a United Nations resolution and they must not forget that. The statement came after Israeli troops fired on UN peacekeepers in Lebanon.
L'inquiétude sur la question d'Israël, au moment même où notre pays a à faire face à une montée des actes antisémites. Et constamment, les gouvernements successifs, moi-même, avons lutté contre toute forme d'antisémitisme dans notre pays, sans relâche, car c'est bien une conflagration générale qu'il faut éviter. Cela nécessite que l'Iran renonce à menacer Israël directement ou indirectement, qu'il revienne au respect de ses obligations nucléaires, mette un terme à ses activités dangereuses au Moyen-Orient et cesse de surcroît de fournir à la Russie les armes qu'elle utilise contre l'Ukraine.
And staying with sports, Finidi George continued his unbeaten run as manager of Rivers United in the 2024-25 Nigeria Premier League, guiding the team to a 2-0 victory over Shooting Stars at the Adokia Messiemeka Stadium in Port Harcourt on Thursday. 2 goals in the second half from Anikeme Asukwo Okon and Ndifreka Udoefiong secured the win, marking Finidi's 4th consecutive home victory and 5th overall this season. This result puts Rivers United back at the top of the standings with 17 points from 7 matches, 2 points ahead of second place Remo Stars, who suffered a 3-1 defeat to Plateau United. Meanwhile, Shooting Stars have now lost 3 of their last 4 matches and have managed just 1 win in 7 games this season. Following the match, the coach praised his players for effectively executing the game plan.
We are quite happy with the performance of the players. We thought that penalty would have opened the game for us, but we couldn't score twice, but I think we controlled the game in the first half. Going in with 0-0, I told the players, let them forget about that penalty. Think as if the game is just starting, see how we can, first 10 minutes, how we can get a goal. From there, we can build. So we were quite fortunate that goal came. And, we kept playing and looking for the second goal because this league you never know what can happen. So we're quite happy with the victory. Like I always say.
And that's all the news we have for you this hour. But before we go, another look at some of the major stories. Government promises to rebuild Majia town following Jigawa tanker blast as the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau begins probe. National Security Advisor Madam Nur Ribadu says many arms of terrorists are government-owned. Kenya Senate votes to oust Deputy President. You can watch News Central live on DSTV Channel 422, Star Times Channel 274. You can also stream live on Facebook and on YouTube. I'm Joe Hanson. The ladies of Jasiri will be here at 10 a.m. West African time. Many thanks for watching.